meeting to order. This meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission for January the 22nd of 2026. Welcome to everyone who's come out tonight to attend. We'll start off with a call to order and the roll call. Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
And Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Franks are not here yet. Commissioner Lindsay's present. Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Commissioner Mann.
Here.
Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
And Alderman Peterson.
Here.
Okay. The next part of our meeting is for citizen comments. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you want to speak on a specific item that's on the agenda, we'll ask you to wait until the citizen comment period for that item. And I do have a couple of cards already, so I will call on you when it's time to speak. For all citizen comments, we ask everyone to fill out a speaker card, hand it to our staff. They'll get it to me. And then when you come up to the microphone, you state your name and address, and then we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. So are there any citizens who would like to speak to the commission at this time? Maybe perhaps for an item that's not on the agenda? Okay. The next item is approval of minutes. Consideration of approval of the December 11th, 2025 Planning Commission minutes. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Was that Commissioner
Second.
Orr? And second by Scott.
No. Second.
Man.
I'm not here. I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Second.
I'll talk about this in a minute. Are there any additions or corrections? By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay, aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay. That motion passes. Okay, item number 2, the election of a chair and a vice chair pursuant to the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission bylaws. Is there a motion?
I have a motion to make, please. I'd like to question for the attorney first. Can I do both chair and vice chair in the same motion?
No, we should probably do something.
Okay.
Separate.
I'd like to nominate Roger Lindsay to be the chair for the upcoming year.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? You want to do a nomination to select by acclamation?
Not me.
Okay, we'll just, Alderman,
As long as it's not me.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay. All right, for vice chair, is there a motion?
I'd like to move Michael Lord to be retained vice chair for the upcoming year.
Okay, we have a motion for Commissioner Orr as vice chair. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen, Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. We retain our chair and vice chair for another year. Okay, staff announcements. Are there any announcements?
None.
Okay. I want to address, I'm going to make a comment just from a procedural standpoint. We're a bit challenged with our sound system up here. Amy has to physically turn on each microphone when each person speaks. That presented some problems this past month when we were transcribing minutes to create the permanent record, and there were problems with that. Secondly, I think I've already demonstrated to you tonight that sometimes I have trouble figuring out which direction a motion comes from because of my hearing problems. And so, consistent with the normal rules of order, I'd like to ask each of you to be recognized by the chair. Before you make a motion or a second or a statement or to ask a question even, just raise your hand and get my attention. Make sure you've got my attention and say, Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion or whatever. Just get my attention, and then I'll know where the motion's coming from. I don't have to ask every time around. So, okay. So, I think that's all I've got with, okay. Consent agenda. Consideration of approval of items 4 through 8, item 10, 11, 13 through 18, item 24, and 25 on the consent agenda. And again, these are items that that are deemed to be non-controversial, and we group them into one and approve them under one motion. We don't discuss them individually. So that's the list for the consent agenda tonight. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second that.
Y'all are doing so well.
We just got started.
Okay, we have a proper motion from Commissioner McLemore and seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
We approve the consent agenda. Okay, first item on our agenda then for specific projects. These first two items deal with sureties on two of our existing properties. So item number 9, Dallas Downs subdivision, site plan, section 3. This call on the letter of credit for performance agreement for landscaping specimen tree replacement improvement. We'll start off with a staff presentation.
Okay, she said to stay here.
Okay.
Okay. I'm doing a little bit of everything tonight. Okay, this is for the Dallas Downs subdivision, site plan section 3, the landscape specimen tree replacement improvement. It has been extended for over 10 years, and at this time, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission call on this letter of credit to allow the city to oversee the completion of these improvements. The key factors leading staff to make this recommendation include the following: that the site plan for the Dallas Downs subdivision, site plan section 3, was approved with conditions in December of 2010. The performance agreement and letter of credit was executed and issued in August of 2013. And in accordance with city procedure, staff has annually provided action requests to the developer Paul Pratt Jr. with Kendall Hall Developers LLC, offering the option for the developer to request the release of the improvement to maintenance, request a reduction in the agreement amount, or request a 1-year maintenance extension. On November 3rd, 2025, staff notified Mr. Pratt via letter that unless the performance agreement could be released to maintenance, the city would proceed with calling the letter of credit at this meeting. On December 4th, 2025, staff inspected the site and found deficiencies as listed on the attached inspection report. The surety amount is for $17,000. Given the age of the subdivision approval, the outstanding required improvements, and the city's obligation to ensure completion of the public improvements, staff feels that continuing to extend this performance agreement will not be in the best interest of the city or the residents of the subdivision. Therefore, staff recommends that the FMPC declare the performance agreement in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement under the supervision of the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there anyone representing the applicant here tonight? Also seeing none. Is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make the motion to call the bond.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Commissioner McLemore. We have a proper motion by Commissioner Harrison, and a second by Commissioner McLemore to call the bonds on this project. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Item number 12, the Longview subdivision site plan, lots 11 and 12. This is for universal storage. A call on the letter of credit for performance agreement for landscaping improvement. We'll turn it over to staff.
Yes, thank you again. Yes, this surety has also been extended for over 10 years, and at this time, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission call on these letters of credit to allow the city to oversee the completion of these improvements. The key factors leading staff to make this recommendation include the following: that the final plat was approved with conditions in April of 2015. The performance agreement and letter of credit was then executed and issued in November of 2015. And similar to the other one, according to staff procedures, we annually provided action requests to the developer offering the option for the developer to request the release, request a one-time reduction, or request a one-year extension. An action request for a one-time reduction was received in April of 2019, and a reduction was granted from $55,000 down to $42,000. However, no other actions was happened at that time. Since then, on November 3rd, 2025, staff mailed a letter to the developer notifying him that unless the performance agreement could be released to maintenance, the city would proceed with calling the letter of credit at this meeting. To date, the applicant has not completed the remaining improvements and has not provided any response to the city's most recent notices. And on December 4th, 2025, staff inspected the site and found deficiencies as listed on the attached inspection report. The amount in question is $42,000. Given the age of the subdivision approval, the outstanding required improvements, the applicant's lack of response, and the city's obligation to ensure completion of public improvements, staff feels that continuing to extend this performance and maintenance agreement will not be in the best interests of the city and the surrounding area. Therefore, staff recommends that the FMPC declare the performance agreement and maintenance agreement to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and sureties for the completion and improvements under the supervision of the city. Thank you.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there anyone here representing the applicant? Is there a motion for this item?
Mr. Chairman? I'd like to make a motion to call the bond.
Mr. Chairman. I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a proper motion by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 19, consideration.
No, let's get that said. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're good.
Yes.
Consideration of Resolution 2025-107, a resolution amending the Gateway Village PUD subdivision to extend the vested rights for the property located south of Linwood Way and west of Franklin Road, located at 120 Davenport Boulevard. turn it over to staff presentation. Joey?
Yes, thank you. The request is to extend the vesting period for the Gateway Village PUD subdivision for a period of 24 months from April 10th of this year until April 10th of 2028 to allow the applicant to secure any necessary permits and commence site preparation. The revised development plan for the Gateway Village PUD was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on October 11th of 2021. The plan includes 6.75 density per unit acre and 144,258 square feet of non-residential space for a site that is composed of a little over 60 acres. The revision was specifically submitted to request the addition of 6 residential units to their last remaining mixed-use building. Staff recommended approval with conditions of the overall development plan revision. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen approved the development plan revision by a vote of 8-0. A previous 3-year extension was granted by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in October of 2024. The applicant submitted a site plan for Lot 134, but has not yet pulled any permits for the site. Should the vesting period not be extended, the project entitlements would cease to exist, stop work orders would be issued if applicable, a new development would need to be approved and would be reviewed against the current local development standards. In reviewing this plan against the current city regulations, the current plan generally complies. The differences in today's ordinance versus those vested under the previous ordinance are minor and could be incorporated into the design without major changes to the plan. A new parkland agreement would need to be approved for any new plan, and any new plan would require an updated traffic study should the project lose its vesting. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that they approve Resolution 2025-107 should they determine that the continuation of vested rights is in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there someone here representing the applicant? Yes. Come to the.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Lukens, the applicant. They still intend to develop the project. As was stated, it's in general compliance with all the current rules and everything. They just need more time to pull the finance package together, finish the permitting, and build. This, I believe, is the last lot in Gateway Village. It's right in the front, so I think everybody would like to see it finished out, and so would the owner. So we appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the extension of investment rights to recommended, yes. Sorry, I left it out. Make a motion to recommend the extension of the entitlements.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Harrison. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you, Jim. Okay, these next 3 items run concurrent to kind of run together. There'll be a plan of services, then followed by an annexation, followed by zoning. So item number 20, consideration of resolution 2025-105, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the annexation of property located south of Hillview Lane and west of Columbia Pike by the city of Franklin, Tennessee. We'll start with a staff presentation. Joey?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The plan of services for this property outlines how infrastructure will need to be provided to serve this property of approximately 80 acres. The property is contiguous to city limits and is within the southern portion of the Franklin urban growth boundary. The property includes one parcel and lies within the SW1 basin as defined by the city's sanitary sewer basin study. This basin is identified as a long-term annexation capability area due to some needed sewer improvements as well as an overall lack of existing road network. The property does not have sewer currently available to service the property. Should the property be annexed into the City of Franklin, sanitary sewer service will not be provided until the property owner constructs the sewer in accordance with the Franklin water management requirements. Water availability will be provided by HB&TS. The draft plan of services details no major concerns in providing infrastructure and services to the property. No additional personnel or equipment will be needed to serve the property from fire, police, or sanitation. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2025-105. Thank you.
Okay. So this is item number 20. Do you want?
Card I filled out now to get to turn in.
Okay, you want to just hand that to me? Thank you. Rob Dodson. Do you want to speak to this one, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't know if it was the time or not. Rob Dodson, I live at 1178 Hillview Lane. I think there's been a misconception of how the city would be able to provide any city services to this property because there's no road, street, or access for the city to do that as it stands right now. You can't provide police or fire service to this property because you can't get to this property. So I'm concerned that the city is contemplating an illegal annexation of property where it has no intention or ability to provide any city services whatsoever for an ulterior motive of an adjacent property owner to try to get their property annexed into the city. And there's been no consideration of whether the city has any intention or ability to provide city services, which is a requirement under the law to be able to annex this property. And the staff recommends it based on we're not going to do anything. We're just going to annex this property. It takes tax dollars to annex this property, but we're not going to provide any city services because we don't have to. And under the law, you can't do that. So I hope that the commission will consider that. I mean, it's obviously an illegal annexation because you cannot provide any city services to this property. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Curtis, or do y'all want to speak to at this time, or? And Mr. Goodspeed? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Janet Curtis. I live on North Chapel Road in Franklin. I have 7 priority questions about compliance with Tennessee law and the plan of services. Does the proposed plan of services under TCA 651-102 include specific projected timing for delivering police, fire, water, sewer, and other services, or is it entirely deferred with no schedule? Since water is described as available from the adjacent Harlan property, does the city commit to providing these services directly, or is the plan relying on the private developer's infrastructure? How does that satisfy the municipality's obligation? For an underdeveloped 80-acre parcel with no current development plans, what independent justification exists for annexing it now beyond creating connectivity for the non-contiguous Harlan property? Principal Planner Joey Bryan stated that this is a long-term annexation capability area, not incorporated into any future Harlan project. If there's truly no need to or plan for services on the Ingram itself, how can this plan be considered reasonable and not arbitrary? If the plan lacks meaningful city commitments, timelines, or independent rationale and appears primarily to enable Harlan, could it be challenged as unreasonable under TCA 651-108, potentially invalidating the annexation? How does annexing this farm parcel at this time promote orderly growth and public benefit as required by state law and case precedents like State Ex Rel. Collier versus City of Pigeon Forge? If approved tonight, what is the exact next step and timeline for Bowman to adopt a full, detailed plan of service with public hearing before any final vote? These questions go to the heart of legal compliance and whether this meets the standard the legal demands. I respectfully ask for clear answers so the commission can make an informed recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Goodspeed?
Thank you very much. I stand here before you tonight with deep concerns about this annexation of the Ingram property. I would like to know who is truly driving the process. Is it Mr. Gamble, who is representing both the Harlans and the Ingrams? Is it the resident of the city of Franklin? Or is it a determination to push this through without the full scrutiny it deserves? Facts raise serious red flags that this is a coordinated bridge type tactic. Mr. Ingram claims to have no current development plans, and City Principal Planner Joey Bryan explicitly stated it is not part of any Harlan project. Mr. Gamble admitted at the November 11th and then again at the December 9th BOMA meetings that annexing the Ingram property would make Harlan contiguous, eliminating the need for a county interlocal agreement. If approved, this would allow Harlan to bypass the state-mandated interlocal agreement required for non-continuous annexation, TCA 651-104D. This strategy risks violating Tennessee law. Annexing solely to create proximity resembles prohibited corridor or strip annexations scrutinized by the Tennessee courts in 1980 in Collier versus the City of Pigeon Forge. Plan of services for undeveloped Ingram farmland may be deemed arbitrary and unreasonable if it lacks independent justification per TCA 651-102. Opening the door to legal challenges and potential invalidation, again, TCA 651-106. Considering he is now, after 10 years, deciding to do annexation. Even if technically permissible with owner consent, it undermines the legislative intent of county cooperation and orderly growth protections. Bottom line, approving this sets a dangerous precedent. We risk unchecked, developer-driven growth, demands slower protections, now safeguard our schools, roads, fiscal health, and the character of Franklin that we all have moved here and or live here and cherish. I thank you all and urge you to reject annexation and require full transparency and county involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the Ingram family tonight. I provided to you an 11 by 17 map that I handed out earlier to you, and this is just for reference. This isn't new information, but it's a little bit easier to see. This darker area that you see here on the map, this is property that's already annexed into the city of Franklin. This yellow line that you're seeing here, that's property that the Ingram family owns. They already have over 218 acres in the city of Franklin that exists today. So they're already a large portion of property annexed in. This property that we're talking about tonight, 79, just about 80 acres of land, is directly adjacent to and contiguous to property that they own. For estate planning purposes, they would like all of their land under one jurisdiction in the city of Franklin. They are in the urban growth boundary. This green area that you're seeing here, that's the city of Franklin's urban growth boundary. The area not included in the urban growth boundary is this black and white aerial photograph right here that goes down Coleman Road. So that area is not in the UGB. The green area is in the UGB, and this darker blue area is currently annexed into the city of Franklin today. This is contiguous to the city limits, and I did make it clear at the BOMA meeting, as stated, that both the Harlan family and the Ingram family understand that by annexing this, the Harlan property would be contiguous to this property. But the reason why the Ingrams are doing this is that they want the property that they own under one jurisdiction. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Greg, which of these parcels is the Harlan property?
It sits over to the west.
Okay.
Right in here.
Is that all the way up to the Hillview Lane? Okay, it cuts across, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the board, mayor, and alderman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Williamson?
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Getting used to this. Yeah, I'd just like to say, there's some concerns on this, but looking at this, it's owned by the same family. I can understand that you have two pieces of property right next to each other. Why not kind of make them the same as far as the jurisdiction? So, for those property owners, that seems like it makes quite a bit of sense to me.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. Is there still a referendum required? At one time, I know there was talk we were supposed to have a referendum on this and vote for annexation.
For annexation?
Uh-huh.
No.
Not anymore. And also, the plan of services, the things that were mentioned as far as being in violation of the law, can anyone from the city explain that? If once we approve annexation, how soon, or is there anything against not having a plan of doing anything right away, as opposed to approving it, and then when do we have to take any action on it?
Well, some services will be immediate. So, for example, fire and police services will be immediate. I assume solid waste will probably be immediate. They'll have to establish an account, but as soon as they do that, probably within, a couple weeks, they could have solid waste services as well. Now, whether or not and when they would want any other services, that's kind of addressed in the plan of service, but some things will be immediate. And they're already getting them, I think, from some of their other properties as well. So it'll be immediate.
Yeah.
And as far as the referendum, there are times when referendums are required, but when they're contiguous like this, it does not require a referendum.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mann?
I think my question probably to Shauna as well. The staff is recommending approval to the concerns of it being an illegal annexation. I presume the staff wouldn't recommend something for approval if it hadn't been approved by the legal department as not posing a risk of violating the law.
Right. And a lot of times the cases you see about plan of service is when someone was annexed not of their own request, and then they feel like they were annexed because it was a land grab by a city or a community, and then they weren't provided any sort of services. And that is a way that property owners can ask to be de-annexed. And there's a whole body of law about how that happens with not following a plan of service. That's why you see a plan of service coming back at 1 year mark, 6 month mark, telling you where we are. We do annex sometimes agricultural properties that really don't need any sort of sewer infrastructure, street infrastructure. That happens from time to time because they want in. And then after a period of time, they might want to add sewer, but it might not be immediate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other comments? So we have a proper motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Item number 21, the consideration of Resolution 2025-106, a resolution to annex one property consisting of 79.89 acres located south of Hillview Lane and west of Columbia Pike and adjoining the city limits within the southern part of the Franklin Urban Growth Boundary, the UGB. Staff presentation, Joey?
Yes, thank you. The property being considered for annexation is contiguous to the city limits and was within the southern limits of the city's urban growth boundary on the southern side. The ability to serve the property with utilities and services has been addressed in the plan of services. The subject property requesting annexation is within the development reserve design concept as defined by Envision Franklin. It is the intention of the applicant to maintain the current agricultural use on the property. And just as noted previously, the property in question is adjacent to land within the city limits that is owned by the same property owner. So staff recommends approval of Resolution 2025-106. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Do any of you wish to make any further comments on this item? Okay.
I think there's a misunderstanding here when there's a statement that there's going to be city services provided immediately to this parcel. To provide city services to this parcel for fire, police, sanitation, you need a road, because you can't count on the fact that they currently own the adjacent property, that they're not going to ask for it. You can't provide any of those services if that other property is sold. And under the law, you have to be able to provide those services to be considered to be providing those services. So this piece of property with no public access for anyone at all, police officer cannot drive to this property. Fire department cannot drive to this property. Waste management cannot drive to this property. None of those city services are going to be provided. They cannot be provided because you do not have public access to this property. You cannot say that because the Ingrams own the adjacent property, well, that's okay. That's not, under the law, that is not sufficient. So you're not providing any of the basic city services required to annex this property. You're not providing any other services required to annex this property. You're not providing any city services whatsoever. And to say they want to do this for estate planning purposes is laughable. It is laughable. No one needs to have all of their properties under the city's umbrella for estate planning purposes. It offers no advantage. It's simply ridiculous.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Do any of the others, Janet? Mr.
The single line description, no development is proposed and water is available from adjacent development of the Harlan property, does not meet Tennessee law. Tennessee TCA 651-102B requires the municipality to adopt a written plan of service before annexation, include the projected timing for delivering those services, be reasonable in scope and timing, fact-specific to the property and comparable to services provided to existing city residents. It provides no projected timing whatsoever, no schedule. It offers no city commitment. The municipality is required to ensure services not defer to a private developer's future infrastructure. It lacks independent justification for any undeveloped 80-acre farm with no plans, simply saying no development proposed and pointing to the Harlan property as passive and developer dependent. MTAS, CTAS, and TACIR guidance all emphasize that even low-impact parcels require fact-specific, defensible plans, not zero-effect deferrals. Legitimate phased plans in other Tennessee cities include clear triggers and explicit city commitments, not reliance on adjacent projects, private projects. If this inadequate language becomes the adopted plan, it invites serious legal risk. For Ingram, a property with no current development intent and no tie to Harlan, per the planning department, the law demands more immediate essential conditions, extension for others, and commitment tied to this parcel. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Goodspeed, you would wish to make any further comments? Okay. Okay. Is there a motion? Oh, Greg, go ahead.
Hi, again, my name is Greg Gamble, representing the applicant, and this is an annexation request by the property owner. They cannot consolidate or create one property as long as they're under two different jurisdictions. So they want them to be in the city of Franklin. The water provider for this property is HB&TS, not the city of Franklin, so I hope that clarifies that point. But happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Just acquired the 79 acres recently?
No, they've owned it.
They've owned both of these properties.
The one that is along Columbia Pike, that has the buildings in close proximity to Columbia Pike, they've owned longer than this 80-acre property that we're asking for annexation on.
But this just wasn't recently purchased.
Neither of them were recently purchased, no. The property that is 79.9 acres, it does not have structures on it today. It does have farm roads that access it. The structures are along Columbia Pike. And it is provided, those structures are provided police and fire and city services today. They're currently in the city limits, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman. I recommend approval of Resolution 25-106 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a proper motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. By Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I have a question. I guess maybe it's more towards staff. Is there a downside to the city of having this annexed into the city? I'm struggling to see one. We can provide services looking through, the water, the sewer. A lot of that's going to be, the burden is going to be placed on the owner to build that. Some city services, but I just want to make sure there's not something out there I'm missing that is detrimental to the city. We usually see these in connection with the development, and here it's a little bit different, but I just don't see a downside. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. We would have reported that to you if we
Okay.
saw a downside.
Further discussion? Yes.
And I just want to make a quick point. Most of the time when people are arguing about the plan of service, it's because we are annexing them and it's the property owner that's saying, you're forcing me in, I don't want to be in, and I'm not getting any services. In this situation, and as you've seen, the law has changed. It probably changed about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 8. Whether or not a property owner is annexed or not is now a property owner decision. It's not a city or municipality decision. We get to decide if we want to take them in, but they get to ask. And we can't just go out and try to get it without their approval. And so it's a different body of law now that we deal with, and that is why we can annex non-contiguous property. It's a special carve-out in the law. I just kind of want to explain that to you because a lot of things have changed in annexation.
Okay. Further discussion, comments? A roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 22, consideration of ordinance 2025-53, an ordinance to zone 79.89 acres agricultural AG district and Hillside Hillcrest overlay HHO district for the property located south of Hillview Lane and west of Columbia Pike. Staff?
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to zone the property to agricultural district should the plan of services and annexation for the property be approved by the board, mayor, and alderman. The property consists of 79.89 acres and is currently zoned MGA1 by the county. Envision Franklin places this parcel into the development reserve design concept that encourages new growth to be in areas where capable of handling high traffic, with adequate public sewer, water, streets are available or planned. It further states that these areas should be subject to further planning in coordination with planned infrastructure improvements and public service delivery. The zoning as proposed is consistent with the recommendations of Envision Franklin and maintains the current use of the property as agriculture. Additionally, the Hillcrest and Hillside Overlay District, as well as the 500-foot HHO buffer, would be applied with this zoning and further protect the character of the area. Let me pull up the other map here. I gave out a map earlier that'll come in handy for this bit. So it should be noted that the current HHO line does not match the city's conservation line that was recently updated as part of the countywide UGB update. So I've provided maps that shows the difference between the current HHO line as well as the updated conservation line, just so everyone's aware. It's kind of there are several greens on this map, I just now noticed, but it's like the medium green. So if you look, this is the parcel that's requesting annexation. So it's this line here that kind of juts around the southern end and then comes back over. So it's actually covering and protecting more property than the current HHO line. So it would be recommended that the ordinance, this zoning ordinance, be update the HHO line to match the modified conservation line. So I can answer any questions if that's a little confusing. So with that, staff does recommend approval of ordinance 2025-53. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to make any further comments on this item? Okay. Seeing none. Applicant, do you have any further comments? Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please. I'd like the motion to recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve ordinance 2025-53 with the amendment to adjust the HHO boundary to match the conservation line on the property that is shown on the Envision Franklin map.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, we have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, as stated by Scott. Is there any further discussion on the item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Okay, item number 23. The consideration of Resolution 2025-103, a resolution approving a revised development plan for Ovation PUD subdivision for the property located at the southeast corner of East McEwen Drive and Carruthers Parkway. Staff?
Good evening. The applicant has submitted a development plan revision for Ovation PUD subdivision. The proposed revision includes updates to the overall layout, to the roadway design, building placement, distribution of uses, and building heights. There are no entitlement changes or modification of standard requests. Therefore, the revision request does not include a rezoning and triggers only a Franklin Municipal Planning Commission review. The proposed update to the development plan realigns the internal roads to address existing topography and adjust the scale of some of the stormwater features. Along with the internal road realignment, the parking structure parallel to Carruthers Parkway is now screened by a building and no longer needs the modification of standard that was approved as part of Revision 2. Lastly, the uses on the site, residential, commercial, and hotel, have moved around but still meet the intent of Envision Franklin and the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The prior conditions of approval that were not fully addressed with this revision have been included as conditions of approval for this revision. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2025-103 with conditions. Thank you.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, turn it over to the applicant.
Hi, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing High Woods and Center Cal team in this presentation tonight. For your convenience, and I'm talking with Chelsea and Amy, we thought this would be helpful. We've provided a side-by-side comparison of the current plan, which is shown on the left side of this 11 by 17, and the proposed plan that you're voting on tonight, shown over on the right side of the plan. We've also provided a heat map showing the height comparisons. Again, the old plan on the left, new plan on the right. And as we discussed in the joint conceptual workshop, when we were going through the process of the development plan approval, we heard several things from really both Planning Commission and the aldermen that were concerns. Number one, that there would be an elevation of a garage along Carruthers Parkway. We have now removed that. There was concern about the heights of buildings along Carruthers having a range from 10 stories down to 3 and 4 story buildings. And now the building A building, those buildings that are along Carruthers are lower profile. Building C is a tall 1-story building that's directly across from 1 and 2 story buildings at Orium. The building on the corner of McEwen and Carruthers Parkway was previously a hotel that would range in height from between 5 and 8 stories. Now it is a 4 to 5 story building, so we're bringing those heights down. And these are really responses to comments that we'd heard through the process, so we're kind of taking those items into consideration. We've moved the taller 10 and 12 story office buildings internal to the site. That was a comment that we heard. Bring them off of Carruthers Parkway, bring them off of McEwen Drive, internalize those more, so we've done that. And we've also adjusted Building J. You may remember Building J is where we had to have a 21-foot tall retaining wall adjacent to the stream buffer. We've pulled that building off of the stream buffer, and now we believe that we can meet the ordinance without a modification of standards. We might not even have to have a retaining wall in that location with this new plan. So happy to answer any questions that you may have, but I believe we've been able to really capture and improve the plan in a lot of areas where we heard input from both Planning Commission and BOMA. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion for this item?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I'd like to move to approve to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, recommendation of approval with
This
staff
is,
comments. Planning Commission.
approval by
Sorry,
Planning
I'd
Commission
like to make a recommendation of approval with staff conditions.
with conditions.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Commissioner Orr. So we have a proper motion for recommending approval by the Planning Commission with conditions by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Any further business? None? No further business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Harrison.
Almost made it through,
Seconded by
almost made it
Commissioner
through
Orr.
without messing up.
A non-debatable motion, Commissioner Harrison. By roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes